Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Matt, and today we're going to be talking about uncertainty in language learning. Let's get started. So, uncertainty is just this really core component of the language learning process. And I think the sooner that you accept this idea and you get comfortable with uncertainty, the more progress that you're going to make and the better time you're going to have while learning a language. And I think for a lot of people, they really get caught up on this idea of perfection. Maybe they want to be perfect in other elements of their life, and so they want to master something before moving on to the next, whether that's a certain amount of vocabulary words or grammar concepts. And I think that this can be a big trap for a lot of people when they're learning a foreign language. Now, if you think about it, learning a language takes a really long time. It takes a long time to be fluent or very competent in a language. And that being said, a lot of the language learning process is just learning new words. So a lot of it is just about vocabulary word acquisition. And until you get to that very final stage, there's going to be words that you just don't know, whether you're listening or you're reading or what have you. And so there's always going to be this element of uncertainty, even though you might know the most common 2,000 or 3,000 words. So, and a lot of times, even if you know those most common 2,000 or 3,000 words, there's going to be that unknown word that brings ambiguity to understanding the meaning of a sentence. So let's say you know every single word in a sentence that's said to you, but you don't know the verb. It's this kind of irregular, maybe not common word. That can change the entire meaning of the sentence. And so you will have this kind of uncertainty about what was being said to you. So I think that really, even at the advanced stages, there's going to be periods in time where you don't understand every single aspect being said to you, especially from a word perspective. And so be okay with that. Be comfortable with the fact that you don't need to understand every single thing, especially as it relates to absorbing compelling material. So, go out there and try fun methods, right? Whether that's reading in a foreign language, whether that's listening to movies or podcasts. It's okay to not understand every single, word that you hear. It's also okay that you don't understand some of the grammatical concepts underneath the hood that's maybe being said in those programs. So be okay with that because, at least if you're familiar with those grammatical concepts, you're going to recognize those trends. You're going to better absorb them, and you're going to absorb some of those words over time, and it's going to help the learning process. Trying to make sense of that ambiguity is going to ultimately help your learning process, and it's going to help you to acquire those things in the long run. So the big takeaway there is be okay with not understanding everything. Now, as I mentioned earlier, this also kind of applies to grammatical concepts as well. So, there's going to be periods in time too where you maybe don't know a certain grammar concept very well, or it's going to be something kind of irregular, and you're not going to understand why that is, or why a sentence is structured a certain way, or what have you. Be okay with that. Because you're going to notice those grammatical trends, how things are structured over time, and it's going to reinforce and help you to learn how the language is structured and to better be able to pick those kind of grammatical concepts up naturally versus just studying like a textbook over and over and over again. Now, I do think it is beneficial to at least be aware of some of the concepts out there, right? Like, how do you conjugate in the present tense? How does the past tense work in this language? It can be beneficial to at least have some sort of understanding, maybe not mastery, but understanding before diving into maybe say reading, because if you're at least aware of those concepts, you're better able to recognize and notice those trends, which will ultimately help you to learn better. So, having some sort of understanding, I think, is good, but you don't need to have mastery, especially when you're reading, right? There might be periods where you're struggling to, get through a text, right? There's a lot of words you don't know. There's some grammar concepts that are really confusing, push through that. Be okay with that uncertainty, that difficulty, that challenge is ultimately pushing you to learn more. It's pushing your mind to see connections and to pick up those concepts, right? If you're not straining a little bit, you might not be absorbing as much material as you could. So be okay with that uncertainty, especially on the grammar front, but also the word front. It's really just this part of the process that goes from the beginner stages all the way to the advanced, and the sooner that you accept that idea and you get comfortable with it, the better. You know, you're going to make more progress, you're going to have more fun, rather than worrying and obsessing about things, you know, throughout the entire process. You know, I think a lot of beginners also struggle with this, right? They want to master all the words in a you know, kind of beginner textbook before moving on to the next, or they really want to understand all the grammatical concepts before they can try to tackle a book or something compelling. You know, don't fall into those traps. Try those things out, be exploratory, and see what works for you. Don't be afraid of failing. You know, I think that's just so important. You know, failing is really part of the learning process. Kind of making that cloudiness, that uncertainty more known to you is how you ultimately learn a language. So be okay with uncertainty. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.